you might have one, two, three, or more children, and you are considering saving for their college education. We all know that the college education has been growing at a rapid pace, often well above the rate of inflation. And over the last 20 years or so, we can look back into it and see that college costs have been going up anywhere between 4 to 6%. Some years is a little bit less. Rarely is it more. It's right around that 4 or 5%. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the different strategies of how to save for college planning. And not all of things are going to apply to you. Some are going to be more or less valid. But we're going to discuss what are different options that you have and how is it being considered when it comes time to applying for college. And welcome to Elephant Corner Financial Lab. My name is Nev Kraguljevic. I am a financial planner, and my goal here is to help you decipher some of the personal finance, money, and things so that you can have a more prosperous life. As we started the video, we started to talk about college planning. And if you have anywhere from a newborn all the way up to the teenager that is about to go to school, it depends on where they are in the process of what you'll be able to do. So we're going to talk about generalities because we can't get into everybody's specific scenarios. That would be impossible because I have no clue who is watching this. But if you have questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. And I do check them on fairly regular basis. I won't lie. I don't check it on daily basis, but I do check them every so often. And so if you have a specific question that might be pertinent to other folks in the audience, I am happy to answer it publicly. Otherwise, working with a financial planner that understands college funding and how college enrollment works is going to be one of the great things for you. All right, so let's really dive into it. We have a few different options of what we can do. I'm going to go to the whiteboard and really start chatting or drafting different things. So one of the first things that you likely have heard about is the 529 plans, and this is supposed to be a 9. Oh my gosh, that is awful. Okay, let's try that again. That is a 9. I do know what 9 looks like most of the time. Okay, so 529 plan is one of the greatest savings vehicles that vast majority of parents and individuals and families know. You can start it as a parent, you can start it as a grandparent, you can start it as an aunt and uncle, and define the beneficiary. The cool part about it is when you put money in, it grows tax-free, and as long as it's used for eligible educational expenses, then all of the withdrawings, including all of the gains, are tax-free. The challenge is if you need to use it for something else, say a child doesn't go to school, you don't need it for college or education expenses, then if you need to take it out, there's going to be some penalties. But the bonus is if, say, I have two kids, Billy and Bobby. Billy is the one we've been saving for. Billy says they're not going to school, I'm going to move that money to Bobby. Say Bobby decides they don't want to go either. Maybe I have a niece or nephew, or maybe I want to get additional education. Maybe I want to go and get my master's or my second master's or my second bachelor's or my first bachelor's. It doesn't really matter what it is for. It can be used for educational purposes. There's also some opportunities to roll some of those funds into Roth IRAs. Obviously, the beneficiary will have to have earned income for that to work, but it is a possibility. The cool part about the 529 plan is that we have the tax benefit, right? So we have the tax benefit, but then it's also seen as the parent's asset. Asset. And this is really important concept over here because when we start thinking about college, obviously we're talking about saving for college, but at some point those savings are going to actually come out and go pay for college. And when you're applying for colleges and for financial aid, which you should, we're going to be talking about in one of the upcoming videos about FAFSA information, is when you apply for it, FAFSA, let's write it down, FAFSA, okay? It's a free application for federal student aid. That's what it stands for. Fancy name. But they basically have different percentages of how parent versus child's assets are being counted. And whenever possible, we want to have assets on the parent side because the threshold is much higher, meaning less amount is being counted towards that student aid index, which is what schools use to apply to see how much aid, if any, you and your child will qualify for. So we want to have it as parents' asset. Now, here is a really, really, really cool thing that I think is important for you to know. If, for example, it wasn't that the parent took in the 529, but instead we have a grandparent, okay, FAFSA doesn't even apply. So it's not even going to be seen as an asset at all. This is one of the cool things. Or, it doesn't even have to be a grandparent. It could be, aunt or uncle, right? Or another family member that is related, the name. So there's some rules, right? Like you can't ask your neighbor Bob and say, "Ooh, Bob, could you open up a 529 for my child?" It's not going to work that way, but you can utilize some of the family members to see if you can actually divert some of these assets out of your name completely, so then it's not even considered for FAFSA. So this is a method number one, and the cool part is that in some states, in many states, you are able to get a tax deduction, state tax deduction. Federal doesn't really work. So if you're in a place like Texas, for example, where there's no income tax, you're not going to get any deduction because, well, there's no income tax and they don't really count it. But if you're in a place like Vermont, where I live, then you will actually get some of the bonuses and benefits if you are putting money towards 529. Some of those 529s, you're going to have to put it for the in-state option. In other places where that taxable benefit is not as great, there are different places where you can put it in. So you can do it in your local state, or you can actually utilize other states that offer 529 plans. Utah comes to mind, Massachusetts come to mind. The reason those because they tend to have some cool benefits that some of the other places and states don't quite offer. So again, it's important to know, just think about 529, one of the cool ways to save for it. Now, the other option that you have is the same that you're saying, well, I don't know if I want to force my child to go to college. I don't know where that is all going. I have no clue what's happening. I don't even know if they want to go. I'm unsure. But in case they do want to go, I would like to save some money. So oftentimes what parents will do is they will set up a custodial account. Okay, so let's go to the custodial account. And these are going to be known as UTMA and UGMA. These are the basic custodial accounts. And what that basically means, and then different states have different rules of what you can and cannot put in these, and that's beyond the scope of this video, but I just want you to understand that they exist, and it is a thing. It's a custodial account that you open up with any brokerage will have that. You open it for a minor, and when they reach the age of majority depends. In some places it's 18, some places it's 21, some places it's 25, but you'll be able to set it up where you are basically gifting. Okay, so you are gifting money to a child. Don't you love my drawing of a child? Adorable. So you are basically gifting money to a child, and then when they come of age, they can use the funds for whatever. It could be used for education. It could be used to buy their home. It could be used to travel. I don't know how to draw travel, so work with me. I guess I could have drawn plane, but my planes are awful. Like, this is a plane. But nobody would fly on that. Anyway, we should stick with what you know. They can also use it to, start their own business. So they can use it for whatever. The part is that if it is being used for education, custodial accounts in education, remember we talked about that FAFSA piece, okay, is being seen as a child's asset. And once you actually create it for the child, you can't like just remove it. That's not a thing. So it will be there. It will stay as a child's asset. And as we talked about for that FAFSA, for that SAI, those are going to be applied at a much higher rate than the parents would. So something to think about, but it is an opportunity. It is a way to do it. The downside of the Atma and Ugma, say that fast 5 times, uh, aside from being a child's asset, is that they are going to be in taxable accounts. And so every year, it is a trust. There's going to be some potentially income, depending what you buy and how you invest the money, and what you have within it. But something to think about, that there's a little bit of a tax drag, which is why oftentimes you will hear from financial advisors, from financial planners, for tax advisors, really saying like consider that 529, because there are definitely benefits there. There is no tax drag to it, and again, it's seen much more favorably by schools and for federal aid. So things to consider. Now, those are the two. We have a third one now, and that is going to be a child's Roth. Say, what? Can I really do that? Yes. All right. So we're going to be talking about a Roth for the child. Okay. Now, a couple of caveats. Here's part that is really cool. I'm fairly certain that most of you already know that Roth has a lot of benefits, right? You put it in, it grows tax free. When you take it out, it grows tax free. All of those pieces are very, very cool. The part that some people do and some people don't know is that depending on your income, you may or may not be able to contribute. You don't get any tax benefits right now, but you get them later. And you can actually do this for your child. The child will have to have earned income, ordinary income. So they will have to get a job. Maybe if you're a business owner, we just did a video talking about some of the tax strategies for business owners, is employing your child in your business, paying them through the business, and then having them, teaching them they need to save some of their money and putting funds into a Roth account for that child. If you don't have a business, maybe that child can get a job. Now, probably won't get a job when they're 10, but when they're 15, 16, maybe they get some sort of job somewhere. And teaching them to start putting some of the funds into the Roth is a really good thing. Portion of this funds can be used towards education. Obviously, we all know if you take it out before 59 and a half, there are penalties with it. However, penalties are applied only on the amount that has grown. So let me explain. Okay, let's say we put in $10,000, right? Okay, and we get some sort of beautiful return, and all of a sudden now this is worth $15,000. Okay, this is what we put in. This you can take out whatever without penalties or anything. So they can take out $10,000 and apply it towards their school. If they were to take the 5,000, okay, 5,000 is where the penalties come in. Okay, so we can still use what we contribute. Now, benefit of why we would consider even doing this potentially. And we would consider doing this potentially because when it comes to FAFSA, again, FAFSA, it would really help if I could write the first time correctly. Okay, FAFSA. FAFSA does not look at retirement accounts, so this won't count. So whatever money is here, this $10,000, won't even register on the FAFSA. It won't register anywhere, but you can still utilize the funds. This is part that makes it kind of interesting, that if you're saying, well, they might need some of that for education, but I want to set them up for future. There's some benefits there. And again, doing the Roth, especially if you have a business, now you get a business deduction, like, right? There's bonuses over there, but the bonus when we're talking about saving for child's education is that you are able to basically have the funds, but they don't count for federal student aid. Pretty darn cool if you ask me. Next strategy is to have a life insurance with cash value. This one is highly controversial within some circles because life insurance with cash value tend to be what is known as permanent life policies, whole life, universal life. The challenge is those policies typically tend to cost quite a bit. There is a high cost to it. Not all policies are created equal, so you really want to think through why and how you're setting this up. I don't know if this would be my first go-to, but it is there. I'm not judging. Some of the financial advisors are very much against the permanent life policies. I believe that all of the products that exist out there have some sort of use, some sort of benefit, and just depends what you're trying to do, what goals you're trying to accomplish, right? There's multiple ways to get from LA to New York City. How you get there depends on you want to get there fastest, cheapest, most fun, visit the most places in between, and so on. So this is the same thing. Life insurance with cash value is that basically you would fund a life insurance. Should anything happen to you, it sort of becomes a legacy planning, estate planning, if you would. That, if you pass, the funds go to your beneficiaries. For most folks, they set up their family members, and the money will come in tax free to them to use for whatever. It's a cool thing. Probably should consider at some point, maybe. But again, not for everybody. So talk to your financial professional. But the one with the cash value, what happens is that we're able to actually put in, so a portion of the money will go to actual like coverage, right? So should something happen to you, and then a portion of that money will go into the cash value, which will grow, hopefully grow. That's the goal, right? That's the idea behind it. If all things go the way they should, which should grow tax free. Now, the reason I'm putting it over here as a potential opportunity and option for you to consider is that, again, we're going to come back to FAFSA. You're going to get tired of this word very, very fast when it comes to college planning, but FAFSA does not take a look at life insurance at all. It's not being considered as an asset for you or for the child. So again, very similar to that Roth planning that we talked about, like Roth opportunity to save funds in, is that this is not even considered. So again, you have it as an asset. You can actually take funds out of the cash value, whether withdrawal or actually borrowing. So again, not going to talk about the tax implications, but there are tax implications whether you choose one versus the other. You do have to be careful that if you take too much out of the cash value, and you're not paying the premiums, the policy might lapse, and there could be some complications and problems. But it is an option for you to consider and think through. Now, we also have covered out ESAs. They are a benefit that you can implement. You can fund it yourself. You can fund it through the business. The reason I'm not necessarily putting it here as much, and we're not talking about it as much, is because the threshold is so low that you have to save for very, 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 very long time. It used to work really well when the schools were not as expensive. And one of the things, sidebar, I guess, when I talk to people my age or older, they say, well, I don't understand what's going on over here. Like when I went to school, like it was cheap. Well, yes, but there's a thing called inflation. We just talked about it at the beginning of the video. It has been growing. The cost of education has been growing anywhere from 4 to 6% per year. Most of our incomes did not grow 4 to 6% per year. So the cost is being much, much more, which is why planning and thinking and saving and strategizing for it is really, really important. And the earlier you start, just like retirement, the more options you have, the less money you need to put in order to get more money, hopefully, at the end. So this is one of the other places where you can go in and save some money. So this is the 3 different strategies that you can think about when it comes to planning for college. Obviously, you can always right? You can always just start. Let's kind of go over to the whiteboard again. You can always just go in and start basically just your own brokerage account. And not even put it in the name of the child. You can just put it in your own name. Again, it's going to be taxable, but as long as you are paying attention to what goes in it, how you're structuring it, what you're holding, does it throw a lot of income, no income, some income, is going to depend on how tax efficient is going to be. So that's one option. The other one that we have on our side is going to be real estate. And I'm going to say income producing real estate. The reason I am being very specific is that there is a difference when you just buy your own home and there's only expenses going in it. Now, again, good purchase, bad purchase. I'm not here to argue that, right? It depends. It depends on what you're trying to do. However, when we're talking about income producing real estate, hopefully it's throwing more income than the expenses, meaning positive cash flow, meaning at the end of every month or end of every year, you make more money from it. So part of it could be that you have the income producing property that you purchase, that you're paying off, and then when the child comes to college, hopefully over the time that income is going to continue to grow, typically does with inflation, but of course the asset itself is going to become an option. And so now we can obviously, uh, you can, sell the property. You can use cash flow to pay for college, or you can actually borrow money from it, like a HELOC or something like that, where you can use to fund the property. And, if you buy somewhere nearby the school, maybe the child can live there, live in one room, rent the rest of the house, they learn business, start to grow, save on room and board, which is the one that tends to drive a lot of expenses when it comes to college education. So again, things to consider and think through. Don't know what is going to work for whom. Don't know what applies to whom. There's different ways and methods to do this. One piece to think about is that the income producing real estate, it is going to show up as an asset if you own it. But if it's not in your name, then it doesn't really matter. But there's also another piece that if that income producing real estate is a business, and again, depending how you structure and what you do with it, could be considered business for FAFSA purposes. Well, it does not count as an asset. You don't have to report it. I mean, it counts as an asset, it's just not reportable. If you own it, right, it becomes small family business. You don't have employers and all these different things that come to place. So that won't come in. The income itself will count. But again, part of the benefit about real estate is that there are some tax strategies that we can use and utilize to lower what's showing up on the taxes and on your 1040. So there you go, folks. A few different ways to start thinking about how do I save for my child's education down the line. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay money blessed.